Hey, you crazy cats! 42's live streams and videos are simply not available on vinyl. You will have to go to the YouTubes for that. So if you want content about British traditions and culture, cutting edge social commentary from an unapologetically patriotic perspective, along with a side order of madness you simply will not find anywhere else, then this is the place for you. And to all those early adapters in the chat, don't forget to hit the notification bell. That's how you get the good stuff, and make sure you never miss a tasty treat. So with that being said and done, squeeze yourself in. Let's get into it. You know you want to. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Please delete as applicable because the internet is worldwide. Time zones are a thing, and I got the fucking intro right. Yes, that's about 3 weeks in a row. I've managed to get the intro off and me on all in one go. Can I get a wee audio check? Now I'm getting all excited about this, but it seems like things are working. It's amazing. And we're going to have a good show. We are, honestly, I promise you. Can't be 100% sure about exactly how it's all going to go because I've got shit to talk about, and we'll give it a whirl. Anyway, I'll do a couple of hellos since we're here. Who all have we got on tonight? We've loads of people on. Leota, the crazy thing herself, is in first, followed by Budgie Burger, who does the best comments on the whole of YouTube. You really want to be reading them. The real Vincent Griffin, what about you, chum? Seen you on with Chris earlier. Nice, interesting conversation. Very good. Willie's Desert Hangouts is on. Willie does this show. You're not going to believe this. It's fucking, it's epic. He turns the live stream on, points it at the fucking animals running about his garden, and says "fuck off" our way. It's quite amazing. But he does get a really lovely chat. And whenever he does decide he's going to talk, it's always good. So maybe have a look out for that. Charlie's in. Lovely to see you. That's Charlie again. Fuck no. Anglo, brother, what about you, chum? Glad to have you here. Mate, as soon as 10 minutes after the stream's finished, check your email. I'm going to send you an email straight after the show. Might even do it during one of the songs, so it's just a really quick one, but it will get you my number and stuff. Okay. Yes, and hit the like. Anglo is right. Angle Charlie, Budgie. Courage is a cure. Ha! Another person that's getting an email straight after the show. You can tell my communication is absolutely brilliant. This is Courage is a cure. She does a show about the news all over the world, about the state of woke and all of that. And she will be getting an invite for the end of the month stream for the end of July. So look out for that. Oh, we've got the Australians in. Yeah, see, look, 1 Australian, 2 Australian. All we need is Linda Hunter to get the whole menagerie there. Very good. Glad to see it. Charlie. Little Wings in from the Waffle House. And Sheila's got the dots. Evening, Sheila. Lovely to have you here. And Linda Hunter's in. See, we've got a full compliment from down under. So there you go. That's the hellos. Couple of shout outs. I've almost done them all now. Really have. Not my fault that they're all done, but look, there's less to shout out about. I honestly have no fucking clue what's happening with Jack London and Ragnar Iron Spear stream on a Sunday night. I think they may be taking a vacation while they reorganize. I don't know. I do know that Robin from Curry's is a Cure, whose comment I put it up a little earlier, streams a lot, like a lot. And you'll find her on YouTube and Facebook and Rumble and basically if there's a platform, she's streaming to it. And it's good information and keep you up to date with what's going on with the world of woke around the world. And also, someone who helps in that regard, but from a different continent, would be RPW Media, Richie Walsh, Jimmy from Philly's brother. A lot more organised than his brother, I will say. Very organised, very switched on dude. Has a whole media site with a really large back catalogue of all sorts of stories. If you need to do any research, I would suggest starting there because he has something on it. He does, particularly if it's political and it's in the world. And that leaves us with the other shout out. The one, the only, the Dave Waffle House. Home of the best duck race on the internet. Now, there are many ways that you can get ducks. You can get ducks by participating in the stream. You can get ducks by participating in the comments after a previous stream. And you can even indeed buy ducks. And these ducks will race down the little rivery thing and everyone will have their name on it and one duck will win. And when your duck wins, you will then be faced with a spin of the wheel of doom. And God knows what sort of a fucking prize you're going to get off that. It could well be liquid ass. Nobody wants liquid ass, but it's on there. It might be a pickle. It might be something 3D printed. It may be unique Dave Waffle House art. But I'll tell you what it is. Unless you're buying your ducks, it's free to enter, and there is a free route to enter. And it's a really good place to just hang out because he streams every night of the week, apart from next week whenever he's on holiday, obviously. So skip it for a week. Yeah, take the first week in July off, Dave. That's a sound plan. Yeah, but yes, a pickle. A fucking 3D pickle. But not just a pickle. It could be a Pickle's Cage, which is a pickle with Nicolas Cage's face on it. There are other pickles available with different things and ducks and fucking all sorts of madness. It's a weird art show that Dave really should be getting on Instagram with a shop where it says the only place to get it is via winning a duck race. It's clean mad. Yeah, but and as I was talking about emails, because I've got quite a few to say, Dave Waffle House is getting one after this show. And you know who's going to be carbon copied on it? Chris Dangerfield, because you know what? I really, really, really want to hear Chris Dangerfield interview Dave Waffle. It's going to be fucking epic. Epic, I tell you. And I'm going to kickstart that by emailing the both of them and telling them to get it done. Because you have a whole week while you're off to figure it out. It'll be great. Just do it. The Skibbity-Doo toilet? I'm not even going to ask what a Skibbity-Doo toilet is. It just sounds too weird. With that, we're going to begin to actually talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. And what we're going to talk about is the traditions that we have in Northern Ireland and Ulster and across the world. Because, yes, we do this shit everywhere. We do it in Canada. We do it in fucking Tonga. We have these parade things. You may have noticed. You might have seen the live stream last week. But what I want to do is explain to you why we do it and why we do it in the way that we do and what its place in society is. And we're going to begin this madness and this delve into this with a little poem, one of mine. And I can just find it here. Hold on. Content. Playlists. Hold on. I've just figured out that I don't know how to work the playlists in my own fucking uh, my own channel. This is not good. One momento. Right, we'll try this another way. Sorry for the delay. One would have thought I might have been a little bit more organised in this, but it seems as usual I'm not. But here we go. Let's try this again. I'll go to my channel. I'll try to find it this way. I'll find a playlist. And I believe, yeah, view playlist, that would be it. There it is. Here we go. Right. Now we might actually get something. The wonderful, amazing, super sexy, and funny as fuck, Emma G. Evening. Glad to see you. See, look, and I haven't even called you chum. See, look, I'm getting better at this. And the plastic Africans in. What about the chum? See, I'll call you chum, not Emma G. That's different. Nah. Here we go. First bit of content of the evening. It's a poem by me. It's called Why We March. And I need to go back to StreamYard and put that up on there. Yes. Here we go. Why We March by 42. To those that ask or question why we march on this first day of July with fife and drum and sash and banner and follow a route in predictable manner. Why we play those tunes that proclaim yesteryear or believe the reason is because we are here. Ponder ye this as you watch the sunset. We march so others will never forget the band of brothers that left us for a while and went to war with a cheer and a smile. The deeds they done to preserve liberty so the people of Ulster would always be free. They fought with a bravery second to none and a bayonet charge that cannot be outdone. As their blood drained in a faraway field, so we march with a pride that cannot be concealed. So no longer dare to question why we march on this first day of July. There you go. That is why we march. Uh, right, we'll get rid of that. Good. So here we go. Louetta, I've read your comments. None of them seem to make sense. So this thing you've got to tell me, please put it in the test in the chat, and we'll see what it says. This is sounding very interesting. Go for it. Yeah. Right. So there's that. Right. We that was a very quick version of this. Our parades. We have there's two parades that happen very close together. One being the Battle of Somme commemoration, which happens on the 1st of July or the weekend of, or thereabouts. And the other one is on the 12th of July, where we commemorate the Battle of the Boyne in 1690. Originally Battle of Acre in 1691, but sure, we'll get to that later, probably, as the way that parade changed what it celebrated or commemorated, however you want to put it that way. But the glaring issue that we're up with at the moment is a lot of people are now calling the Somme Memorial Parades the Mini 12. And I'll tell you why that becomes important and why it's important that we remain with it being the Somme Memorial Parade. Because if it's just a Mini 12 and about something totally different, then one of them could go without it being too detrimental to our culture. However, they both commemorate very well different chapters in the one story. Yeah, the Orange Marches. The Orange Marches is indeed. Uh, so we're going to dig into the Battle of Somme and the commemorations and what they're all about. Then we'll go into the 12th of July ones and the Battle of Boyne. I will say, next Saturday is indeed the 12th of July. It's a public holiday in Northern Ireland, as is the 13th, which will then transfer onto the Monday and Tuesday. But on the 11th of July, we have these bonfires, our castles in the sky. I will be live streaming a bonfire next Friday evening about this. Well, it'll be starting about 10 to 12, 10 to 12, 5 to 12. We'll watch that. And then on the Saturday morning, we will have East Belfast leaving at Tampmore Avenue. And then we will have something of the parade from the city centre. I normally do City Hall, but I may do something slightly different this year. And we will also be having 6th District returning home. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do with that. We have a new Orange Arch erected in East Belfast, and I might go to that part to watch that place to watch them coming back because it should be quite boisterous, but I will figure it out on the day. And we're going to begin by looking at the Battle of Somme and actually the Ulster Covenant. And we're going to look at this from NI Direct. It's a government website, so it's the official thing. And about the Ulster Covenant. The other thing is, I hear a lot of the people in World War One and also World War Two didn't know why they were fighting, and they got all confused and for some reason went off the war and didn't know why, and they were tricked by somebody. Oh, little wing, there's a very good reason why you're not taught any of this stuff, because it is so linked to England's history that it's unreal. In fact, you can't understand England's history without understanding the history of Ireland. You can't understand Ireland's history without understanding the history of England. They are totally linked together. But if they teach you about what happened and how we got to where we are, and the actual reasons for our celebrations and the way they look, yous might make England look the way we make Ulster look, and they don't like that because we make it look very fucking British, and we have no tolerance whatsoever for non-British, and that's obviously not what they've went for in England. That's it's very different. So here we go. The Ulster Covenant. And we're going to talk about this, and this will begin to tell you the beginning of the story, at least, about the Ulster Covenant. And this is from Northern Ireland Direct, our government website. And we really see this fucking catastrophe. And I think I'm going to, I will leave me in. And just want to check what this is looking like on the string. That could do with being larger. So we will zoom this in. Right. It's from NI Direct. And yes, this is fucking leprechaun bullshit that we have. Because all our stuff's getting double languaged for no apparent reason, other than need to throw money away and pretend that some people speak a fucking made up language. But there you go. The archive of the Ulster Covenant is held by Public Records Office Northern Ireland and has under just under 500,000 original signatures addressed by the men and women who signed the Ulster Covenant or correspondent Women's Declaration on the 20th of September 1912. And for those of you that are clued in, I did a show about Ulster Day on the 20th of September last year, and we talked all about this. So let's get into this and what all went on. The Home Rule crisis. The Ulster Covenant was a response to the latest Home Rule Bill to be proposed in Westminster to sort out the long-running Irish question by giving Ireland a limited measure of local autonomy. The first two bills had been rejected by Parliament in 1886 and 1893, and in June 1892, at a demonstration in Belfast, the Ulster Covenant was chaired by the Duke of Abercorn and attracted 20,000 opponents to Home Rule. And basically, let me sum this up. What they wanted to do was separate Ireland and Britain, which at that time hadn't been in union for very long. It was only 1801 that the union between England and Ireland was, England, Scotland and Ireland. By the way, there's no Wales in the Act of Union anywhere. Strange that. So in 1801, England and Ireland had joined. There was to be no barrier between trade, import duties, export duties, all that sort of stuff. And this was an attempt to have a Catholic Irish rule with nothing British about it. And the people of Ulster obviously were not very pleased. A lot of people in the Republic of Ireland were not pleased as well because they were British and Protestant, but they were also a very small proportion of the population, and their response to all this was to basically move north. By 1912, the Liberal British Prime Minister Herbert Asquith had proposed a third Home Rule Bill. Whilst it drags its way through the Commons, the Ulster Unionists made preparations for active resistance. In January 1912, they had begun to rise and openly train a military force which became known as the Ulster Volunteers. So instead of waiting for all this to happen, what we did was we formed an army. Back in Westminster, Unionists put up fierce opposition at each stage of the Home Rule Bill, and the third reading was not carried until January 1913, after which the bill received its expected defeat in the House of Lords. See, because back then, we actually had a House of Lords, and they could see that there was something that was going on that was not good for the country, and they went, yeah, no, you can't really do that, and they stopped that. However, that would only work as a pause for a year. And then we had the outbreak of World War I, and that stopped everything. So what actually is this Ulster Covenant? And with that, I'm going to take a look in the chat. It is. We would get on with the texting people. Oh, actually, there was quite a few of us at the Alamo, by the way. Yeah, right, okay. Sorry, I was just checking the chat. Get back to this. Where was I? Right. So what was it? Sir Edward Carson, leader of the Irish Unionist Party, and James Craig, the Unionist MP of East Down, appreciate the importance of maintaining order and discipline among their followers. A solemn and binding oath to resist Home Rule that could be signed by the men of Ulster was one means by which Carson and Craig believed they could maintain cohesion in their organisation. This was as much for propaganda value as for any other reason to convince the public opinion at home and abroad of the solidarity and determination and self-control of the Unionists. So basically, this wasn't the failed threat. This was the threat. They say is that if you want to stop us being British, we're going to fight this on it. After much considering as to the wording, it was suggested the model might be the Scottish National Covenant of 1638, which was a protest against the King's right to declare how the Scottish Church should be governed. A special commission was appointed to adapt the wording to suit Ulster's circumstances when it was realised that a shorter and plainer English version would be more suitable. This was drafted by Thomas Sinclair, a Belfast merchant and leader of the Ulster Liberal Unionism that had broken with the Liberal Party on the Home Rule issue. When the Covenant was submitted to the Protestant churches, a crucial change was noted and caution was introduced. The Presbyterians advised that the obligation on signatories should be confined to the present crisis, as no one could predict what circumstances might arise in future. So back then, these people had no fucking clue why they were going to war and got tricked into it. They were creating their own political legal documents. They had the church on board, and the church had told them, "Here, hold on, see whatever you just do. Just be careful you don't end up on the hook for everything here. And that if we decide we don't want to play for that thing, that we don't have to." Right, so the preparations for Ulster Day. In August that year, newspapers announced Saturday 20th of September 1912 would be Ulster Day, when Unionists would dedicate themselves to the Covenant. James Craig, masterminded the Covenant campaign of 11 meetings to be held over 10 days in September 1912, beginning in the west of Ulster and sweeping towards the crescendo in Belfast. Carson was the principal speaker at these rallies, designed to explain the purpose of the Covenant and the responsibilities involved in signing. I actually went to a reenactment of one of these rallies over just off the Shankill Road in, West Belfast, technically. So Shankill Road's the borders between West and North Belfast. But we all went over there. There was a big fuck-off parade. The Somme societies were all there, and they had somebody that actually delivered the same speech. Because we'll have all these speeches, and it was very, very moving. On the 27th of September 1912, the Ulster Unionist Council passed a resolution pledging itself to the Covenant and set out a case for doing so. During its meeting, one of the largest Union flags ever made, measuring 48 feet by 25 feet, was hung as a backdrop. The Central Ulster Day Committee was appointed to handle preparations for obtaining as many signatures as possible at various centres throughout Ulster. The committee was headed by Dawson Bates, Secretary of the UUC, Colonel TVP McCallum of the Orange Order, and Captain Frank Hall representing the Unionist clubs. Again, what you have, you've got the Orange Order, you've got the Unionist clubs, and the Ulster Day people all coming together, and they all know each other because they're all probably members of this Orange Order in the middle, and it's very easy for them to meet and organise, and that's how they're done. Circulars were distributed to local Ulster Day committees, which arranged for unionists to have opportunity to sign the Covenant on their own districts. Does anybody know what a fucking circular actually is? Oh, those were the days. And to make sure that over 500 halls and other suitable premises were made. Yeah, the secretary was saying the circulars. I remember that. Yes. On Wednesday, 20th of September, 700 large cardboard boxes containing copies of the Covenant and the Declaration printed on cardboard in large bold type for displays in halls, and forms for signing were sent out from Belfast Town Hall for distribution in the city and rural areas. And by the way, this was not the government doing this. This was the people. They just organised it and did it. The signing of the Covenant was conducted in an atmosphere of near religious fervour, appearing to many like a crusade, with comparisons being drawn between the Ulster Covenant and the Old Testament Covenant of the Israelites. Religious services to invoke divine aid and to encourage signatures were held throughout in Protestant churches, with the favourite hymn being "O God, our help in ages past" by Charles Frederick D'Arcy, later Archbishop of Armagh, stated in the church's reason for supporting the Covenant. "We hold that no power, not even the British Parliament, has the right to deprive us of our heritage and British citizenship." And that's something I will reiterate today, and I will make it turn blue. We, the people of Ulster, hold that no power, even the British Parliament, has the right to deprive us of our heritage and British citizenship. And yes, that does mean we're prepared to fight anybody. Factories and the shipyard in Belfast were idle and silent, allowing their workers the opportunity to go to church and then congregate at the City Hall. The church services ended about noon. Carson and other unionist leaders left the Ulster Hall and walked a short distance along Bedford Street to the City Hall, preceded by the Boyne standard, with a guard of men wearing bowler hats and carrying sticks. A body of 2,500 men, drawn from the Orange Lodges and unionist clubs, marshalled the crowds outside the City Hall throughout the day. They literally had to beat them back with sticks. At the City Hall entrance, Carson was welcomed by Lord Mayor and Corporation, the Poor Law Guardians and the Water Board and the Harbour Commissions. Inside, a circular table draped with the Union flag was placed in the entrance hall. On it was set the Covenant together with a silver inkstand and Carson's silver pen. Carson signed first, followed by Lord Londonderry and representatives of the Protestant churches, and then by James Craig. The Unionist Club marshals admitted the general public in batches of 400 or 500 at a time until 11 p.m. Lines of specially made temporary desks set out along the corridors allowed 540 signatures to be taken at a time. Elsewhere, there were similar scenes of people enthusiastic to sign. At the Ulster Hall, women signed the Declaration. The Duke of Abercorn, in failing health, signed under an oak tree of his estate in Bushcount. Lord Templetown signed at Castle Upton on an old drum of the Temple Patrick Infantry. Martin Ross of Somerville Road wrote, "For the time, men stepped forward and fixed their signatures and were quickly replaced by the next batch. Down the street in the market house, women were signing, women who had come in flagged motors and on bicycles and on foot. At the City Hall of Belfast, the people were signing at a rate of about 150 a minute. There was no hypnotic force of dense masses, no whirlwind of emotion, only the unadorned and individual action of those who left their fields and taken their lives and their liberties in their hands, laying them forth in the open sunshine as a measure of their resolve." The people just came and did this. In Dublin, the Covenant was signed by 2,000 men who could prove they were born in Ulster. It was also signed in major cities in England and Scotland. In the chat, take a guess what city in England was most popular for this being signed. I think you might be surprised. And in places further afield, including aboard the SS Lake Chapman, From his vessel, a letter was received attaching the signatures of 12 second-class passengers, 4 men and 8 women. Among the third-class passengers, 34 had also the covenant text, stuck it to a piece of paper and signed. These people, no matter where they were in the world, they wanted to be part of this momentous day. On the evening of Ulster Day, Carson left the Ulster Club in Belfast, travelled by wagon at a short distance to the docks, where he boarded the steamer for Liverpool. A journey that should have taken a few minutes took an hour, as around 70,000 people crammed Castle Place, beseeching Carson not to leave. That's him leaving Belfast. As the steamer slowly made its way up Belfast Lock, the vast crowd stood singing "Rule Britannia" and "God Save the King." When Carson went ashore at Liverpool the next morning, a 150,000 strong crowd greeted him with "O God, our help in ages past," and conducted him in procession. And with that, I'm going to have a quick look at the chat. So no, I didn't think you would have guessed that Liverpool would have had a very, very strong unionist sentiment at that time. Oh, Angle was on it. Is she the new brother? Beaten back with sticks. That's a B-side. It should be. Yeah. Sorry, I just screen grabbed that comment, budget. Expect the poem beaten back with sticks. Yeah, they do indeed. Circulars are like leaflets and stuff. All right. Back to this. The forms for foolscap size sheets with spaces for 10 signatures made up into blocks of 10 sheets per fold and held by the text of the covenant together with the parliamentary division, district and place of signing. Underneath were lines ruled for names and addresses of signatures. For a petition to be valid, you need the name of the person, you need their address, which needs to be their legal name, their legal address, and you need to also document and record where it was signed. Additional information in the folder cover was the agent's name, also sent were what would become souvenirs for signatures, individual parchment copies of their signatures in Old English type and headed with the red hand of Ulster. So many people signed this covenant. 237,368 men signed the covenant, and 146 women signed the correspondent women's declaration, totaling nearly 500,000 signatures. This is a whole community together. Signatures made by Ulster unionists across a strikingly large breadth of society, including labourers, professionals, aristocrats, and clergy. It was not only in Ulster that the covenant was signed. Signatures were collected in major cities in England, Wales, and Dublin, with 2,000 signatures were given by those who approved they were born in Ulster. Now, the next bit in this is the views of non-unionists, and I will do that, but I think for now what we need to do is have a look at the Ulster Covenant and what this thing actually is. So we'll take that away, and I think we do have a picture. Yep, we can get that up. Present. Stop screen. Present. Share screen. Window. Here we go. This is actually a picture taken of a mural on a wall in Thorndike Street, which, if you watch the last parade, Thorndike Street, or if you watch any of the live streams from my parades to start off, it's in and around that area, but it's on the wall. And I'm going to make this a little larger and move it about. Oh, fuck's sake. This. This has all got a little bit dynamic for some reason, and it changes, but let's see. Right. So what did these people all say? Being convinced in our consciences that the Home Rule would be disastrous to the material well-being of Ulster, as well as the whole of Ireland, subversive to our civil and religious freedom, destructive of our citizenship, and perilous to the unity of the empire. We whose names are underwritten, men of Ulster, loyal subjects of His Gracious Majesty, King George V, humbly relying on the God whom our fathers in days of stress and trial confidently trusted, do hereby pledge ourselves in solemn covenant throughout this our time of threatened calamity, to stand by one another and to another in defending. Actually, do you know what? This is I'm going to stop this madness and get a different picture up that I don't have to move about. Or hold on. Or could have just done that. Yeah. Here we go. Maybe I better read this time. Being convinced in our consciences that the Home Rule would be disastrous to our material well-being of Ulster, as well as the whole of Ireland, subversive of our civil and religious freedoms, destructive of our citizenship, and perilous to the unity of the empire, we whose names are underwritten, men of Ulster, loyal subjects of His Gracious Majesty King George V, humbly relying on the God whom our fathers in days of stress and trial confidently trusted, do hereby pledge ourselves in solemn covenant throughout this time of our threatened calamity, to stand by one another in defending ourselves and our children, our cherished position of equal citizenship to the United Kingdom. 1 second, I need to cough. Sorry about that. Oh, no. Where's that window? Yes. As equal citizens of the United Kingdom, in using any means which may be found necessary to defeat the present conspiracy to set up a Home Rule Parliament in Ireland. And in the event of such a Parliament being forced upon us, we further solemnly and mutually pledge ourselves to refuse to recognise its authority. We do not recognise the authority of any Parliament except the British Parliament. Ensure confidence that God will defend the right we here to subscribe our names, and further, we individually declare that we have not already signed this covenant. And further, we individually declare that we have not already signed this covenant. So that last line is to say that this is not 10 people signing it 100 times. And basically, what it is, everybody saying that is immediately on a treason list should things go pear shaped. So, anybody that thinks these people did not know exactly why they were going to war, I believe are incorrect. Because, by God, they thought about this and went through it. And the other thing I'm going to say is, I have no reason to believe that the men of, or the people, indeed, of England, Scotland, and Wales, I don't think that they were somehow less well informed of the politics and what was going on. Uh, yeah, so there's that. And with that, we are going to have Linda. Have you not sang the national anthem since it changed? The first two or three times I sang it, it was a bit of a catch, but I've got used to it now. But yeah, one in the chat if you've sung God Save the King, because we've got a new head of state, and two in the chat if you haven't. This is actually quite interesting. And there's my one going in. Right. Hide that comment. Yeah. Yeah, Jack, you're on a timeout. Do you know what? See all your anti-monarchy shit? Take it somewhere fucking else. Here's the thing. If you want to come here, you can come here and be fine. Don't talk shit about the royals. I don't put up with that. Whenever you come back, you can go back. That's fine. You're not banned. You're on a timeout. Now you know. Them's the rules. I don't put up with that shit. So there you go. And with that, I think we're going to have a little musical interlude. And I think it's going to be The Road to Somme is what it's going to be. Bum, 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 bum. Oh, I watched the coronation at City Hall. It was fucking class. Watched the funeral at City Hall as well. That's a whole other thing. Bum, 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 bum. Where am I? Presenter invite. Share screen. Share screen. Bloody wrote this song. Here we go. Oh shit, hold on. I thought that was playing, but I hadn't put it on the StreamYards. Oh, for fuck's sake. Right, here we go. That'll work better. Now we do actually have a musical interlude.
Hear the measured beat of Ulstermen marching through the green fields and streets of the towns, called up to arms by bold Edward Carson to stand for the red hand and crown. These were the seed of mighty Cuchulainn, these were the sons of Congal Clean, determined that Gael and Rome should not rule them, and England if need be withstand. Those were the days of Ulster's defiance, those were the days of passion and strife, those were the days when England denied us and Ulster stood for her life. The call came for war and the volunteers answered. The 36th was formed in 1914 to fight the German Kaiser instead of faithless England, to maintain their birthright and king. They marched into hell nearly 2 years onward, the first day of July on a bright and summer morn. Aloft against blue sky they bore the Ulster standard down the bloody road to the Somme. These were the men of Tyrone, Londonderry, Monaghan and Cavan, down and Donegal, the men of Armagh, of Antrim and Fermanagh, who walked the bloody road to the Somme. They faced the deadly hail from cannons and machine guns, through the bursting shells in hell of no man's land. Triumphantly they yelled the cry of no surrender, and fought the Kaiser's troops hand to hand. 3 miles they struck through enemy defences in the greatest charge of that European war. Like a mighty wave they swamped the German trenches, over fallen dead and barbed wire. Then they were cut off with no one to support them. They were mown down by fire from 3 sides. Bravely they fell like leaves in the autumn. Death reaped the bitter harvest of their lives. When the battle ceased, a young man was heard crying, bleeding from a wound where the bullet creased his head. There amid the maimed, the pleading and the dying, he held the broken body of his friend. As the red sunset smoke drifted o'er the trenches, dazed, bewildered men trudged back along the way. The carnage, it was great, the slaughter, it was senseless. 5,000 Ulster sons fell that day. Here was a time of mourning and of sorrow. All along the line they gathered up their dead. Here was a time of yearning for the morrow. Here was a time when Ulster bled. The land was filled with grief when news broke of the slaughter. Like heavy clouds, it hung o'er Cruithne's brow. The telegrams, they came to mothers, wives and daughters, and like warm falling rain, the tears poured down. We count the bloody cost they paid for Ulster's freedom. We cherish memories of those who died so young. With passing of the years, we will not forget them who walked the bloody road to the Somme. As long as earth revolves upon its axis turning, when day sleeps in the dark and wakens with the dawn, as long as sun goes down and rises in the morning, we will remember the Somme. We will remember the Somme. We will remember the Somme.
Right. I'm going to take that out for the minute. It will come back in a moment because I'm going to have a little bit of a talk about it. But right, that's one of the very, very many songs that we have about the song. It tells you the story and whatnot. And why this is important that it's put into the song is that it's your oral history. It's how you learn this stuff. I think it was Little Wing was saying that she never really got taught much about the history and whatnot. Because we've always known that our history was going to be important, it was trying to be taken from us. We've put it into everything. And we've put it into everything 2 or 3 times, by the way. In the same way that you did with the gunpowder plot. You just put it into your history and you made it important, but it got sort of washed away. But there's some bits in this. I'm going to see if anybody can pick out the culture. And there's a couple of cultural references in this song that are about to start that I want to. So I'm going to play a start again. And I'm going to stop it at a couple of points and see does anybody know what the cultural references are. Which is doubtful, but and then I'm going to tell you. See, you learn something. I'm honestly not trying to be a dick. I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to teach. I'm probably not very good at it, but we'll give it a go. So, here we go.
Hear the measured beat of Ulster men marching through the green fields and streets of the towns, called up to arms by bold Edward Carson, to stand for the red hand and crown. These were the seed of mighty Cathal.
Okay. First question. Anybody in the chat know who Cathal is or was? Anybody? Cathal is a mythical Ulster warrior that goes back to the dawns of time. No, Culloden's a different. Cathal was a warrior. He also known as the Hound of Ulster. Goes back right to the myths. He's a mythical person. Nobody thinks that he's real, but there's that. Nah. We're going to have the next cultural reference coming up. Actually, I'm going to let this play through and then I'm going to explain it.
For the red hand and crown. These were the seed of mighty Cathal, and these were the sons of Congal Clean.
Right, the sons of Congal Clean. Congal Clean was the king of the Ulad who fought the Celts at the Battle of Moria at around. Ooh. The Battle of Moria was at 637 AD, and Congal Clean, he led an army that was made up of Ulads, Picts, who are Scottish, Scotty, who are also Scotch, Saxons, that's you guys in England, and Britons, the Welshmen that stood against the invading O'Neill Celts. So this is putting this into a timeline, saying these people are doing the same activities that was done by these people in the past.
man, determined that Gael and Rome should not rule them, and England, if need be, withstand.
Now, determined that Gael or Rome should not rule them. We're going to be ruled by ourselves, not by outsiders, not by Gaels, not by Romans. And Colin Keehan, he had fought against Romans as well, by the way. What's not talked about a lot is that not only did the Romans have the Picts along the border, they had Ulad, they had Ulster Scots, they had Saxons joining with the Britons and niggling and kicking at whatever was available and putting them out. And what this song is doing is putting this home rule thing, this band that was formed in the 1920s, into the same continuum and showing that they are fighting the same fight that had been fought by their forefathers. Because please, people, what you need to understand is that this is all on a continuum. Your history's a story. New chapters open up. And we get told about what happened with the rich and the famous, but we never get told about what happened to the normal people, the labourers, the working class, if you will. And they stayed pretty much through all of this. I would say Rachel Reeves is Norman. Brad's on it with Cahalan. Yeah, so this is all on a continuum, and we've been fighting the same people. And as Angle will tell you, our problem's the fucking Normans. That's who keep on coming over. That's who's done all this shit. So the parades that we have on the 1st of July, they're about the Somme, about the creation of Northern Ireland, about staying British. Now, yeah, Norman from accounts. Oh, fuck. That was classic. Yes. Norman. And what we're going to talk about next is actually, fuck, I think we're going to have another musical interlude. Oh, right. We need something that's not this. What we'll have. Exactly. The Doomsday Book was an audit. And that's where we got this ruling class from. They ain't Britons. They're fucking Normans. That's why they hate us. That's why they're fucking trying to keep us down. Alright, Spanish chicken. What do I want for a musical interlude? I think I'm going to do a bit of harmony, melody, and rhyme. That sounds about right. We'll do harmony, melody, and rhyme.
This is 42 speaking. Welcome to the Resistance. You are not alone, and we shall walk this journey together. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Let us gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. For from that grand house they tried to burn down, there's gold in the ashes if you look around. Let us gather together those that can perform, then from those scarred timbers build our own platform. Build our own platform. We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing for all time. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. We descended from minstrels in old days of yore. We will create a culture as we did once before. Forced to stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. They have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. Forced to stand by as our country was sold. Did you really think we'd leave that story untold? We will sing words of wisdom. We will sing we will sing harmony, melody, rhyme. Harmony, melody, and rhyme. So one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. I have seen the future, the way forward is clear. Among us still stands a modern day Shakespeare. You never realized you could not kill a dream. So we will gather together those that can perform, and from the scarred timbers build our own platform. You're talking to 42. What about you, chum? If one brings a guitar and one brings a voice, then they stand together and make their own choice. Sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people, harmony, melody, and rhyme. We will sing words of wisdom, we will sing for all time. We will sing for our people with the ancient trilogy of harmony, melody, rhyme. The sun each became a deity, independent parts of another trilogy. Is it a coincidence or is it just sublime that we not bring excellence in harmony, melody, and rhyme? this journey together.
All right. So there you go. That was harmony, melody, and rhyme. And where have we got to? Right. Our parades and stuff. The ones on the 1st of July, they're for the Somme. All that stuff we talked about. The creation of Northern Ireland and the fact that we are guaranteed to remain British so long as we wish to be. I suppose I probably should do this. Yeah, so we'll have these parades. I'll show you a little bit. See if I can find a band coming past here. Right, yeah. The parades look like this. I will get this shirt. Share screen. Share screen. This is actually one of mine. StreamYard. I mean, it's all the rage around where I live. No, I haven't seen that. All right, here we go. This is a part of the stream I streamed the other night. I'd like to see a band coming past. Is it?
You're saying that one have more two blues, but they do not cross. The Huguenots, as you probably know, were promises to escape Holland and the Ulster. Oh, on the back of that. Ain't about.
Anyway, so they look like that, they sound like that, they're a little bit noisy. Bloody good fun, but they are noisy. Yeah, there's like 30 bands out here. As you might guess, as I told you about Northern Ireland being a bit divided and whatnot, not everybody likes these parades. So, I want to show you this a little bit. This is just down the road from that, and all these people have just paraded past this. So,
See the grey horse that live on the other side of that fence and the other side of that road, and us do not get on
yep, we'll play from here.
ever. And they are.
You need to go back a bit. Yeah, about there.
If you can see the grey hoardings on this road, we'll go over and we'll get right up close and we'll like to see them. Probably the most interesting part of the fucking show.
Probably is the most
But-
interesting part of the show.
As you can see, you've got a normal road here. And over in that area directly facing you, that's a short strand, which is Irish Nationalists and Catholics. And they don't like our music. And the police have came along and they've put up this. So, Melly, to film this?
Pardon?
I'm just going to hear to film this. Is that okay? Yeah. Right. Yeah, we get this. It gets put up to separate the street. You can see there's.
Yeah, you see that big fucking wall, temporary wall we put down along the road? That's because these people that live over there do not like our noise, and apparently this fence stops the noise of the bands and the parades. This parade, for the formation of Ulster, is opposed every year. All these parades are opposed by the Irish.
Water's coming, so I'm going to move away from there. But that's been put up all along here. Because the people that live on the other side of that fence and the other side of that road and us do not get on ever. And they are very, very perturbed that that parade that you just watched comes past their houses. Doesn't go through their area, it goes past their houses, close enough for it to be heard. And that's why they have their objections. And this is what happens in whenever you live in a country that's got segregation. The types of thing that wall truss are. It doesn't do any real physical thing, because if they wanted to throw over that, they could.
I would also say that there's never been an instance of the people from the parade attacking the people that live there. Yeah. Well, it's not to block the parade. Ha! I knew you did. It's not to block the parade. It's to make the parade seem more of an inconvenience than what it is. And the plan is to go, look at all the inconvenience this causes. We need to stop that. There was a parade in Belfast city centre going to lay a wreath at the cenotaph that was physically attacked by 3 people. Anything that we do in a unionist culture in Ulster is opposed. Everything. And I've got a quick shout out to anybody that thinks that the British people and the Irish people in Ireland can get together and stop the immigrants. We can't help you stop the immigrants while you're trying to fight us. So fuck off. It really is that simple. If you want us to help you in your struggle against the immigrants, you need to leave us the fuck alone. Stop attacking us, and then maybe we might. But you're attacking us, so we can't help you. And if you can't say, if you're saying, well, it's not all Catholics, it's just those other ones, then sort your own fucking society out and make us feel welcome. And then maybe we might. But at the minute, you have a shitload of work to do. And it starts with every objection to every parade being nullified, stopped. Work it out. And then we'll maybe consider you're serious. Because at the minute, I can't really see us being serious about any of it. Anyway, rant over. Now, I seen that. I would have. There only is it. There's very few people who've got ranch. Who I can't remember who it was said about it, but no, there's only a couple of people who've got ranches. There's Brad James, there's Anglo, there's Emma G, and there's a couple of others. Yeah, there has not been. The only rating that there's been in Ulster recently has been the attacks on the people in the British people in South Belfast and in the waterside area of Londonderry. That's a fair point. I would like to just live and let live. Problem is, a lot of Irish people aren't just letting me live. They're trying to take away everything that we hold dear, including our fucking country. So we could just knock that in the head, and we'll make it easier, and it will make it easier for us all to live and let live. Honestly, please, just let us have our country. And we'll all get on fine. We'll have our little bit, you have your little bit, and we can all get on. So, that was Ulster Covenant in the Somme, and now we're going to have a quick look about the Battle of the Boyne and what it's about. Yeah. See, Spanish, what you have to realize is they still call the British people in Ireland planters. They think that they're immigrants. And the fact of the matter is that the British people in Ireland are indigenous and it's the Celts that invaded, but sure. Oh, yeah. The same stories are used all over the place. By the way, you'll find that all these fucking leftist groups are all connected and they all have the same playbook and the same fucking words. But what was I going to talk about next? Yes. So the Boyne is about the glorious deliverance or the glorious revolution, depending on, well, you're English or from Ulster. And we're going to a little bit about that. So, well, oars. No, I don't want that. I want the glorious revolution. And we will zoom this in. Right. Presenter share screen, share screen. The Glorious Revolution, and this is coming from the Museum of Orange History. The Glorious Revolution of 1688-1689 was glorious because in England it was bloodless and was supported by the mass of the country, thus achieving prominence with the Cromwellian settlement, prominence which the Cromwellian settlement lacked. It was also glorious because in retrospect we can see the form it flowed religious tolerance, freedom of speech, press, liberty and subject, independence of judges to interpret the law, and to the development, both at home and overseas, of parliamentary democracy and constitutional monarchy. And what they're talking about, the Cromwellian settlement, was the end of the English Civil War, and you still had bother and troubles after that. But whenever William came in, he did so with the backing of the very vast majority of the population, like 97%. And that's why it was bloodless. He just had to come over and take over the throne. When he became king, James II's first step was to summon a parliament to demand that they vote for him revenues for life of the parliament. So King James, who was the king before King William, he was asking the parliament to give him revenues, which they did, but never again. To this day, have they handled control of finances far more of the year at a time, thus ensuring the parliament must meet every year of the government. So what they did was he had asked for the whole funds for the whole first parliament, and after that they says, no, here, hold on, we can't trust you with the money, you get it a year at a time. Now his basic revenue was secured. James asked Parliament to repeal the Test Act, the Habeas Corpus Act, and other laws which hampered his excessive action. He was thought to secure he thought secure in the knowledge that the Tory principle of non-resistance would ensure compliance. So King James, he'd only take the throne, he was taking away the people's rights and trying to rule by divine right. The defeat of the two rebellions made James more confident, and his admiration for the policy of Louis the whatever in France in revoking the Edict of Nantes led on to destruction. James' masters Sunderland and Jeffreys told him whatever he wanted to hear. James now had a great army raised to avoid the intention of keeping it parliamentary and having reinforcements bringing over regiments newly raised from Ireland. Yeah, so King James brought a load of soldiers back from Ireland to England. Parliament returned in November 1685 in the face of a demand for the king for additional large sum of money and to pay for a greatly increased army. This time they did not fall into a trap prepared for them, but proposed that the standing army be disbanded and that James rely on the militia. They annoyed him further by demanding that he discharge the Roman Catholic officers. This is where the ruling came in that for quite a while you were not allowed to be a Catholic and an officer above a certain rank in the British Army because you were seen as a danger because you could take control and try to take over the place. However, the true parting of the ways was a refusal of the Tory Parliament to repeal the Test Act, which excluded Roman Catholics and Protestant dissenters from office. So if you weren't in line with what the government said, you weren't allowed in office, and they had an act whereby they could test your opinions, and if you didn't come up, you just couldn't have that job. And James wanted that taken away so that he could appoint whoever he wanted, and they says, no, you're not doing that. If he had only sought religious tolerance, he could have had it, and that is what Pope Innocent the 11th and his bidding would manage without it. After sitting for only 11 days, the Parliament was prorogued. The King of England before the Revolution had always claimed an undefined right, in special cases, to set law aside. It was known as the royal prerogative and could be useful in allowing justice to be tampered with mercy. So the royal prerogative was only supposed to be used if you wanted to free somebody from something. It wasn't supposed to be used to put somebody in jail, and that's what James was after. However, James now proposed to use it to repeal laws wholesale. In April 1688, James' Privy Council issued an order in the council instructing the declaration of indulgence to be read at 2 successive Sundays in the divine service of all parish churches. This was him again starting to fuck about with the religion in the country and turn it from Protestant into Catholic. In London, the dates were specified as the 20th and 27th, and the rest of England the 3rd and 10th of June. Copies were given to the bishops and directed to distribute them among the clergymen. The Archbishop of Canterbury, William Scrantock, summoned to Lambeth Palace those bishops who were in London, and their advice wrote that all bishops urging them to come to London at once. However, time was short and only 6 were able to assemble in Lambeth on the 18th of May. The 7 men drew up a humble petition, which after disclaiming all disloyalty and intolerance said, I'm going to highlight this, hopefully make it easier to read. The Parliament, both in the late and present reign, has pronounced that the sovereign would not constitutionally commit to dispense with statutes of matters ecclesiastical. The declaration was therefore illegal, and the practitioners could not in prudence honour the conscience. In honour of conscience, be partner to the solemn publication of an illegal declaration in the house of God during the time of divine service. So what they're saying is, you're asking us to do something that we simply cannot do. The king was furious and said, this is a standard of rebellion. You are trumpeters of sedition. Go to your diocese and see that I am obeyed. The noble salary of the Bishop Ken replied, "We too have duties to perform, our duty to God and our duty to your majesty. We honour you, but we fear God." So what James was doing was trying to put the church into a position where they had to choose between their faith and his rule, and they chose with their faith. On the 8th of June, all 7 bishops were summoned to Whitehall, but on refusing to withdraw their petition, they were sent to the Tower by boat to face trial for seditious libel. So they have said, "We're not going to do what you say." So he said, "That's okay. I'm probably going to burn you at the stake." On June 29th, a vast throng surrounded Westminster Hall, where the Court of King's Bench was to hear the case. In spite of the King's purge of judges, only two of the 4 hearing the case advised the jury in favour of the accused, for which they were dismissed from the bench the following week. So the judge doesn't do what you want, you just dismiss him. The jury were held up all night by a single dissenter, but next day came to a unanimous verdict of not guilty. The rest of the day and night were given to a celebration with bonfires and windows illuminated with 7 candles. Even the King's troops in Hounslow Heath cheered at the echo of the news. However, James was in no mood to give up. He had new hope. A few weeks before, a son had been born to the second wife of Mary of Malada. To Protestants, this was the last straw, because what we had after the Civil War would be messing about with kings and queens, and you could get a Bloody Mary and that could burn a Protestant at the stake every Friday and drink chicken and drink wine and eat chicken. That's what it was. So this is why they decided that we needed a whole new king and a whole new way of doing things. That night, a document was secretly dispatched to William of Orange, inviting him to come over to England with a military force round which the country would rally against the government of James. William, Prince of Orange, had no easy task. I'm highlighting this. William, Prince of Orange, had no easy task. The United Provinces were a federation of republics under immediate threat from France. Many of the Dutch were suspicious of the House of Orange, but William had proved his worth during the French invasion of 1672, when he took command and drove the French out of their country at the age of 21. France was always a Catholic country. England and Holland were Protestant countries, and they'd been on the same side in this whole debacle. At the crucial moment, both Lewis and James played into his hands. James refused help and advice from Lewis, who, in a fit of plague, marched his forces away from the Dutch border to attack the Rhineland, leaving the way clear for William. There was still the problem of the English fleet. Right, so the French army needed to move to get William out. There was still a problem in England of the English fleet and the army. Though effects were being made to persuade their commanders to play for time, after a few false starts, the Protestant east winds blew in, and on the 1st of November, the fleet sailed. At noon on the 5th of November, 1688, the ships were anchored in Torbay. By the way, there's a parade in Torbay every November. If any of you English people want to get down and see that reenactment, it's quite the day, I believe. I haven't been to it personally. I hope to in future. We will see. And William was ruled fort ashore at Brixham. Some 12,000 men were landed the next few days, and about half the size of the regular forces of James Pay. The English and Scottish regiments in Dutch pay very sensibly formed a fan of the Dutch as the Dutch recruited soldiers from all Protestant countries in Europe. It was a very cosmopolitan army. If you want to see the only time that white Europeans have came together en masse, it's this: white Protestant Europeans. White Protestant Europeans and white Catholic Europeans never have got on very well en masse. William gave James plenty of time to consider his position. First, James fled to Sheerness in the Isle of Skipney, but was captured by some fishermen and taken to Forshazen and brought back to London. The next time he was taken to Rochester at the mouth of the River Medway, and from there he managed to get away to France, allowing William to reach William unopposed. So what happened was James ran away. So there was no battle to take over England. The first task was to fill the vacant throne, as without sovereignty there could be no legal parliament. A convention was summoned, consisting of the members still surviving from the last parliament of Charles II, thus overcoming the effect of James I's purges. William was not prepared to be regent or consort, as the Tories would have preferred, so both parties agreed that William and Mary be joint sovereigns, because Mary was a person that was legit to be queen, but William was the force that was able to put her there. The agreed formula read that King James II, I'm going to highlight this, that King James II, having ensavored and subvert the constitution of the kingdom by breaking the original contract between the king and the people, and by the advice of Jesuits and other wicked persons having violated the fundamental laws and withholding himself out of the kingdom, had abdicated the government, that the throne is thereby vacant, that it hath been found by experience to be inconsistent of this Protestant kingdom to be governed by a papish prince or by any king or queen marrying a papist, etc. So from then on, that be the rules of being the King of England. I just want to check the chat. Out of curiosity, how many English people have heard about that? Yes, Anglo's right on that. Yeah, I would have figured Brad, probably Anglo, probably Anglo's heard it here. But right, I'm going to continue on with the Silver Sponge House. Welcome aboard, chum. Glad to have you here. Right, so on the 12th of February 1689, Mary arrived from Holland. I'm going to zoom this in a bit more. Yeah, that's a bit better. On the 12th of February 1689, Mary arrived from Holland, and on the following day, in the banqueting house at Whitehall, the Prince and Princess were proclaimed King and Queen in the usual places. I need liquid. That's what's wrong with me. I haven't been drinking enough water. My throat's dry. Pardon me. They were proclaimed king and queen in the usual places in the cities of London and Westminster, because there's certain places, like the gates of Buckingham Palace, where announcements are put out. As the kingdom now had a king and queen, the parliament could legally constitute it, so the convention was to be converted into a parliament and proceeded to pass a Bill of Rights and a parliamentary statute. The declaration ratifying the abuses of power and in the previous reign has become one of the greatest charters in the British literaries. So, this is the English Bill of Rights. I know a lot of people think that use English don't have one of these, but there you go. Here's your rights. The royal presentation to dispense with and suspend laws without the consent of Parliament. These are ways in which the king or queen is constrained. So they cannot suspend laws without the consent of Parliament. Whenever you talk about we are ruled by consent, that's what it means. It means it's been through Parliament. And since this law was brought into place, the king or queen does not have the ability to change it. The punishment of subjects for petitioning the crown. Up until this point, if you petitioned the king or queen and the king or queen didn't like it, they could well punish you for making that petition and interrupting their day. They were no longer allowed to do that. The establishment of the illegal Court of High Commission for Ecclesiastical Affairs. So the king's no longer allowed to just fucking create his own separate court system for his cronies. The levy of taxes without the consent of Parliament means that the king can no longer go in and say, here, give me some money. That has to be done through Parliament, and the Parliament is formed by the people voting for members of the Parliament. The maintenance of a standing army in time of peace without the consent of Parliament. See if all right, hold on. Yeah, we're all good. Lost my place now. Sorry. The levy of taxes without the consent of Parliament. Can't just say, come and give me money. Maintenance of a standing army in time of peace without the consent of the army. Prior to this, the king had total control of the army. Now, the amount of soldiers that we have and all of that is totally under control of the Parliament. This is so that the king, and by the way, the army swears itself to the king, not the Parliament. So the army could form a coup if they wished, but Parliament can keep the army so small and dictate who's going to be in it to make that impossible. And if you wonder why our army's so small at a time whenever the governments became tyrannical, that's probably why. The disarmament of Protestants while Papists were armed and employed contrary to law. See, because the last king had taken the weapons off the Protestants, but then allowed Papists to be not only armed but fucking officers in an army, and that's how massacres happen. The violation of the freedom of election, so the king's not allowed to interfere in elections anymore. Taking legal action outside Parliament about debates and speeches in Parliament. This one's actually very interesting and needs to be highlighted on its own. On to the Bill of Rights. taking legal action outside Parliament about debates and speeches in Parliament. This is where parliamentary privilege comes from. And this is the only place that parliamentary privilege comes from. And it means that if you say something in the House of Parliament as elected, as part of your duties, you can't be prosecuted. Now, there's another law that came in very shortly after this, which allowed you to say that which is repugnant to Parliament. And that applies to everybody, not just the parliamentarians. And we need to think about that. The return of partial or corrupt juries, like we talked about in the case earlier, where they had the wrong jury and the jury was given the wrong instructions. The requisition of excessive bail, because prior to this, the king could have just plucked any subject and threw them into jail. Done away with that. The imposition of excessive fines. This is where the rules come in about fines being manageable, and where everybody that's ever had a fine knows that whenever you go to court and you have to pay your fine, you get asked about your ability to pay, and then things get modified and tailored and all of that, and they work out a payment plan for you. That's where this comes from your Bill of Rights. Infliction of cruel and unusual punishments. One would say that our government's currently guilty of this, because I think taking somebody's liberty away for a Facebook post is cruel and unusual punishment for that crime, and the forfeiting of property of the accused persons before conviction. So it would have been that if the king had threw you in jail, he could have just took all of your land, and that would have been more like lords that he would be doing that to. He wasn't coming after your fucking horse and cart, but he might have been after your country home. And if he takes it off you while you're in his care, I don't know how you get it back. Further acts of the Revolution settlement. The Toleration Act of 1689. As promised, all religious but not all civil disabilities were removed from the freedom of worship of Protestant dissidents, including Presbyterians, including Independents and Quakers, but not Ultrasonians. I'm not even sure what that religious sect is, but they made it pretty much. They took away any problems with being whatever religion you wanted. Now, that might affect what job you could have, but you could practice your faith. William would have been glad to extend this freedom to all Roman Catholics, as was the practice in Holland, but the country was not prepared for such a move for another 100 years. So 100 years later, we increased this and let Roman Catholics have whatever job they wanted, and the place has gone to shit since then. However, in practice, in the spirit of New Age of toleration in England, ensured that the laws were not enforced rigidly. So basically, from the Glorious Revolution, you have freedom of religion. The Mutiny Act. The Crown remained as the authority to which the Army and Navy gave their allegiance. Talked about this earlier. And was still in command of the armed forces. Yet Parliament, by the Mutiny Act, granted authority to the Crown to enforce discipline by court-martial for only 1 year at a time. Judges Commission. Henceforth, these would be held not at the will of the king, but so long as they behave properly. The Crown could no longer dismiss, and also the end of that, the Crown going, here, we don't like you, you're not my judge. That was then the Parliament took all control of that. So from this point on, Parliament, not the King, has been controlling the whole fucking country. From this point forward, you have not heard the royal family's opinion on shit. You have heard what the Parliament told them to say. The Trinity Act of 1694. To ensure that the Parliament present themselves to the electorate at regular intervals, this act was passed, limiting the life of the Parliament to 3 years. It was later extended to 5. It was also laid down that there must not be a long interval between parliaments. I got caught out with this recently because I thought there was a minimum time to a parliament, but I don't think there actually is. I think you can hold an election before 3 years if you wish. I need to actually look into that. The Treason Act of 1695. Henceforth, public justice was to be impartial and no longer a mere instrument of the Crown. So the King couldn't just decide that you were treasonous. There had to be a thing. And Freedom of the Press Act in 1695. Hitherto, it had been necessary to obtain a license before printing any book, pamphlet, or newspaper. Going to say it again for anybody that's slow. Up until 1695, you needed licenses. Hitherto, it had been necessary to obtain a license before printing any book, pamphlet, or newspaper. The Revolution secured the right to print and publish matter obnoxious to the government by the adoption of the Censorship Act of 1695. Of course, there was still a risk of action before a court of law for sedition, slander, libel, or blasphemy. So here's your cutouts. Is it sedition? Is it slander? Is it libel? Is it blasphemy? Blasphemy. Is it against God? Seems like you're allowed to say stuff against God. Libel. Is it true? Libel, slander. Both different ways of lying about somebody. Or is it sedition? But other than that, you can publish that whenever, wherever you want. And I was sitting in a prison cell because I had published a sticker. I think I would be bringing up that. Act. Now, you may well ask me what all of that has got to do with the 12th of July and the parades then. Well, the Battle of the Boyne was what happened after that. So William came to England, James ran off, went to Scotland, went to France, went back from France to Ireland, and had a go at taking. Was having a go at trying to get back, and the Battle of the Boyne on the 12th of July was where James was defeated. And so on the 12th of July, we parade to commemorate that victory, which secured all of those rights. Now, the parades again are quite noisy. They look exactly the same. In fact, if you were to look at a Somme Memorial Parade and a 12th of July parade, or a Relief at Derry parade, or any of those, The only way you're going to know exactly what it's for is by the date and the time and all of that stuff. But it is important to remember that they're remembering two different events and the history behind why we do that, and it being on the continuum that I spoke about earlier. This is an intergenerational fight, and it goes back many, many, many generations. It may be easier to see in Ulster than it is in the rest of Britain. But I can guarantee you, if you look far enough, you'll find it. And you'll find that what happened is, in your case, the Normans come over, they put in a ruling class. And the people who are running your government are the descendants of the Normans. And they got on well with the Irish, because the French and the Irish always, the French were always fighting the English, and anywhere that the English are fighting, you'll find that Irish pop up. They popped up in the fucking Boer War. Yes, the Boer War. There was Irish turned up in the Boer War fighting for the Boers. There was Irish fucking invaded Canada during the American War of Independence. They don't like us. And it's all on a continuum. And with that, we're just about 2 hours. And my throat's going. Related but random. The Dutch have the highest speakers of English per capita in Europe. Feel born with the Dutch. Yeah. The Dutch are more like us than, they're a lot more like us than the French are. The Dutch and us are pretty similar. There's parts of Germany are pretty similar to us as well. It's just the way the spread goes, but strangely, that belief is immediately conferred upon the maternal bloodlines, not the paternal, whether you like it or not. All right, right. I don't know what you're talking about now. Apparently, Frisian is close to English in any other language. Probably is. Irish were also behind Lambert Simon and Packham Warback. Yeah. By the way, whenever the United Irishmen were on the go, there was United Scotchmen and Welshmen as well, all fucking niggling together with their wee fucking plots. This is a really old thing. I'll take it back to not being ruled by Celt or Gael or Roman. It's all the same shit. They're not us. They don't like us. And they're prepared to destroy the whole fucking place in order to take it, to rule over the fucking rubble. But this ain't our first rodeo. We've been in much worse shape than this before. And we will persevere, and we will win. We will figure it out. Every war the British people have won has been won because of their ability to plan and come up with something unexpected and pull together. And that's what we will do. That's what we're going to have to do. And if you're looking for the person that's going to come and save you, find a mirror, because it's going to have to be you. We all have to do this together. And with that, I'm going to do a couple of shout outs. Next Friday night, 11th night bonfire. It's going to be live from Ravenhill Road, East. Well, it's not Ravenhill Road. It's in the Woodstock area of East Belfast, not far from where I am. It's a good sized fire. I'm going to live stream that. And then on the 12th morning, I shall be starting off with East Belfast leaving. There'll be a main parade in the afternoon. There'll be a going home parade, which I expect to be quite noisy and boisterous. And what will we have? Actually, before we do the outro, I think we're going to have Bill My Gallows. No. No, we'll have We're Coming Down the Road. Wee bit of Lisa from Battalion. And then we'll do the outro. I need to take my old stuff out. Share screen. Share screen. We'll play this. Fuck, I have to go back to this.
An army to oppose. So all to grant our boys were sent, and Carson he did say, go take our sons and tell the Huns that we are on our way. In 1912, a home rule bill England imposed, and so Lord Carson he did raise an army to oppose. So all to France our boys were sent, and Carson he did say, go take our sons and tell the Huns that we are on our. Let's sing it, singing it. We're coming, we're coming, we're coming down the road. We're the first battalion in the net. We're coming down the road. We're coming, we're coming, we're coming down the road. We're the volunteers of the Union. We're coming down the road. So how far have we now come? How far have we to go? And those we gone who were our friends now stand beside the foe. So take you heed, the price is high, and you will have to pay. So listen now, my words only are on. Let's hear you singing it. We're coming, we're coming, we're coming.
Oh, yeah, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Hold on. Oh fuck, right. I'll I'll get I'll get together with this fucking yeah. I'll get together with this fucking StreamYard yet. Here we go. Bonus song.
They say this day that I must die. But I caught the irony, and they say that I must stay. Oh, they say this day that I must die. Oh, yeah, my gallows building high. And I might see before I die the aftermath and dreams of counting down. Can't see again the lights of home. But I have no royal Ulster man. And they say that I must die. But I caught their evil plan, just a dream I gave away. And they say yes, that I must die. Oh, yeah, my gallows building high. And I see before I die the aftermath and dreams of counting down. And see again the lights of okay, it's your turn. Let's hear you singing Okay, Nancy, you sing it, come on. They say that I must die. But I fought the other way. And they say that I must stay. But they say that I must die. Well, I know feeling that I see before I die. The aftermath and dreams of counting down. See again the lights of gold.
Right, that's that off. And now we're going to do the actual intro. I'm going to put all your comments up on the screen, and it's going to be the Anglo-Saxon. Here we go. Hello, you're listening to 42's letter to the Anglo-Saxons. When you spread this message, you are the resistance. The Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon shook his head sharply, his hair dislodging droplets of sweat from the back of his neck, the produce of moving a carcass to the workbench. The sharpened blades and cleavers felt natural in his hand. The carcass divided to his will. The Anglo-Saxon's muscle memory was that of a warrior. His body was lost to the toil, but his mind wandered to memories that were not his own. An intruder startled the Anglo-Saxon. However, before him was not the meadows and glades of his ancestors, but a butcher's shop window. While politely serving the customer, the Anglo-Saxon mourned the loss of a kingdom he had never known, of the rituals and customs that were lost long before his grandparents were even born. Outside, the street was a bustle. He knew there were others like him, ones who carried the warrior's pride. Amongst them he would find the rightful place of an Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon.
It was not preached to the crowd, it was not taught by the state. No man spoke it aloud when the Anglo-Saxons began to hate. It was not suddenly bred, it will not swiftly abate. Through the chill years ahead, when the time shall count from the date that the Anglo-Saxons began to hate. When time shall count from the date the Anglo-Saxons began to hate.
Game over.
Okay, everybody, that's it for another week. See you all next week for bonfires, bands, music, all sorts of stuff. I've been 42. You lot in the chat have, as always, been fucking amazing. Good night. God bless. See you all next week. I'm out of here. Goodbye.